All right, guys, my name is Teresa Snyder, and I am so fired up about this interview today. I have a special guest co-host, Tim Hodgkiss. Tim is,
Hey.
yeah, hey, he is a fun patent attorney. We say patent attorney, and everybody goes, ooh, he's smart. Guess what?
Ooh,
He's
yeah.
fun, too.
Fun, smart. Yeah.
All of it. And I just wanted to bring him in. This is our first co-hosting opportunity together, but I thought how exciting it would be to do this with David Allen Arnold,
hmm
who, oh my gosh, his resume is extraordinary. So, David, please introduce yourself and let us know who you are.
My name is David Allen Arnold. I am the helicopter cameraman of Deadliest Catch. I also fly over the World Series, the Super Bowl, Amazing Race, and Survivor.
It's so crazy
Wow.
cool. So, how did you get into that gig?
I knocked on a lot of doors when I got out of high school, and I was fairly aggressive. So, Teresa, if you were in the phone book for doing any kind of television or film, and you were in my town, you would hear from me. I'd come, probably every 2 weeks, and I'd knock on your door, and I'd say, hello, I can work for free if you'd like, so you can see if you like how I do things. And I would always just be offering to help. And one of the companies that I would visit regularly told me to get lost. They said, quit coming around here. All we do are helicopter cameras. We have no use for you. So I said, oh, okay. I scratched them off my list, and I wasn't going to bother them again. And then they called me about 3 weeks later. So unbeknownst to everyone, they had an employee who was quitting.
Okay.
So their employee quit, and all of a sudden they needed someone out of the blue. And I guess they remembered that I was always coming around and always positive and willing to work. And so they gave me a chance. And the big boss of the company said, look, I could hire a big cinematographer from New York or from Hollywood. But he said, you seem hungry. Are you hungry?
Mm.
And I said, yeah, I'm hungry. I'm hungry. So I went home and I thought, oh man, I would love to work for this company. How could I let them know that I'm hungry and I want to work? And that night I was taking the trash out of my apartment. And when I threw the trash in the dumpster, in the bottom of the dumpster, I saw an old, dirty pair of greasy, grimy work boots that someone had thrown away. And I dived into the dumpster, and I pulled those greasy boots out, and I put one of them on a plate, and I took a picture of myself carving into it like a sirloin steak. And I had the picture delivered to their office. And one of the ladies in the office told me, she said, the second that the big boss saw that picture of you eating your boot with a big smile, you had the job. So I was
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow, that is so cool. Well, I
Wow.
have shared the screen. Do you guys see this? Do you see
I
that
see
I
it.
have the video pulled up? I'm just going to play a little bit of this because it says podcasters hit me up for a free copy of my book, but I just want them, I want to get a feel of what this is like. Like, this is cool.
Yeah. Wow.
So that's Discovery Bird. That's the helicopter that we hover in next to the big crab boats on the Deadliest Catch. And that day, one of the boat captains was driving to a meeting, so we flew around him as he was driving his pickup truck.
Wow.
And that's my book. I don't know if you can still hear me, but
There's the
that's my book,
book.
Help from Above.
Awesome.
Help from above.
Oh, and a documentary series. That is so cool. Oh my
Thank you.
gosh.
So yeah, when you talk about how did I start, I love for kids today to hear my story and read the book. I think that the new generation gets a bad rap. Everyone's complaining, the millennials don't work hard and they're entitled. And I completely disagree. I think the new generation is awesome, and they just need some of them need a little bit of storytelling to hear how someone like myself, who made a long successful career in the TV business, how I got started and what it was that got me the job.
Wow. So, Tim, what would you like to acknowledge him for or ask?
Well, I love these shows. I love reality TV, and Deadliest Catch is one of my favorite
Oh, I
shows. And
can't hear him.
oh, now he can't hear me.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we're
Wow.
I'm
trading
not
off
hearing.
on that.
I can hear you,
Okay.
Teresa. What did he
You
say?
can? Okay, Tim
I
said he loves Deadliest Catch. It's one of his favorite reality shows. So that's awesome. And I just
So,
remember it probably like 10, 12 years ago, whenever I was working for a pharmaceutical company and all the managers were talking about this show. And it's like you go out and someone dies potentially. So tell us, how did you get started in the Deadliest Catch?
well, that
Working on that
that
show.
story is in my book.
Oh,
That story is in
cool.
my book. I tell the I got this call to fly out to the middle of nowhere in the Aleutian Islands. I mean, we are hundreds of miles from the nearest
mhm.
human city, and I'm out in the middle of nowhere, and I just entered into what I learned was the most dangerous environment that I've ever flown in 25 years of TV and movies. And
Uh-oh.
Oh,
there's that there, a lot of, and it was just a uh, balls to the wall, life-threatening nightmare where
wow.
these guys work and they make the most money you can make without a college degree working on those crab boats. And so to fly a helicopter into that environment where the winds and the snow and the ice and the freezing water below our skids are so deadly dangerous was just a life-changing adventure. And so a lot of that stuff is in the book, and people can read what it's like to be in that environment and fly a little tiny helicopter that's hovering next to these boats as they're crashing
Yeah,
through 20-foot waves.
Wow. Okay,
amazing,
so David,
amazing.
by chance, can you hear Tim? Tim?
Can you hear me now, David? No?
I only can hear you, Teresa, but it was if you can tell me what he's saying,
Well,
I'm happy to
Awesome.
help
Teresa,
any way I can.
Awesome.
translate. I'm curious as to the co-pilot that David uses. If
The
they,
co-pilot.
they've worked together for a long time, or do they vary, or because there's got to be some sort of, communication between the two, so David's able to get
Okay.
those great cinematic shots.
Yes, he wants to know about the co-pilot. Is it a consistent co-pilot? How how does it work inside of the helicopter to make sure that you're getting these extraordinary shots?
Well, that video we just watched of Discovery Bird, you see two helmets in the
Hmm.
screen. One of them's me, the other is the pilot. Sometimes we'll carry a producer from the show to supervise what we're doing, and we love when that happens. However, in the storms that we fly in for the show, uh, just taking myself and the pilot helps us a lot because the aircraft has more power and the pilot's able to move
Hmm.
more freely around the boats. So when the weather gets bad, which is really,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, it tends to be just me and the pilot.
Okay, wow. And Tim, I'm going to drop you back down for a second. Yes, we're dealing with a little bit of technology, but this is so fun. And I'm curious, have you always been
Yeah,
adventuresome? You're what?
I've always been different. I'm very open and honest about things about my life, the choices I've made, which are very sometimes strange and unique.
Like,
Hmm.
And we were
tell
talking
us an
about
example.
Deadliest Catch.
Like an example of a strange
For an,
choice that you made.
well, well, Deadliest Catch. If I quit, only one uh, on the Deadliest Catch who has filmed all 16 seasons, all 16 years, and a journalist wanted to come out and do an article. He said, "Dave, I'm going to do a magazine about you and the helicopter and Discovery Bird." And I said, "Okay, great. Well, first we're going to have to put you through a class where they put you up in a sinking helicopter so you can practice escaping, getting to the
Wow.
surface." And he said, "What?" And I explained to him how dangerous it is to fly over the Deadliest Catch. And I could just hear the wind coming out of his sails as we were talking on the phone. And he said, "You know what? I don't think I want to go." And now we're just sitting on the phone in awkward silence. And he goes, why do you? It really, when he asked that question, it really made it clear for me how the way I live is different from how a lot of people live. And I really believe that adventure and taking a risk and doing something meaningful, that holds a meaning for us and for the really important part of life. And it's something that in today's modern risk-averse culture, where we all push away all form of risk, I think it's something we don't get enough of in modern life.
Wow. So I'm going to test. Can you hear Tim by chance? Tim?
Can you hear me, David?
Hey, I hear you. You're back. Welcome back.
All right. Well, before I forget, can I ask you, how does it feel to be nominated for the Emmys?
I love it. It's kind of funny because it's in the trash. Academy, it just was something that I never took time to go to the Emmys. And I finally, when I wrote the books, I finally started going to these red carpet events, and really blew me away. It's just such a great spectacle. It is such a thrill. It's like everyone says, it's a thrill just to be nominated. And there's a couple of times I went where our shows didn't win, and so all my friends are sitting around me in tuxedos and dresses, and they get all sour and upset. I gotta tell you, being in that room is awesome. And as people are going and accepting the Emmy Awards that they've won, the announcer said how many times they've been nominated and how many times they've won. And I'll sometimes, when I'm sitting in that room, I'll watch a 70-year-old man walk down to receive his Emmy, and the announcer will say, Bob has been nominated 6 times, and this is his first Emmy.
Wow.
And on Deadliest Catch alone, we've won 4 for cinematography.
Wow.
And so it just gave me a perspective of, I can't feel bad if we don't win this year, because, there's people who've never been nominated, and I'm watching people who've worked their whole career single Emmy Award in television.
Wow.
So it
well,
really
I hear
is
gratitude.
Just I love it.
Yes. I hear the gratitude. And this past year, this past February, I was able to go to an Oscars party and actually do red carpet hosting and asking the questions. I mean, talk about being in my element. Loved it. And another thing that I wanted to bring up is that Tim and I have been talking about creating an adventure style mastermind, because I'm such an adventure thrill seeker. And I remember going to Hawaii and doing the helicopter tour, and the pilot actually, he was an ex-Marine military, and he told the 3 or 4 of us that were in the helicopter, he said, he's willing to get crazy if we want. And I'm like, yeah, hello, let's go. And it was so fun. And I mean, the guy that I was with, I think he was going to throw up. I'm not sure, but I was having a blast. So, Tim and I have talked a lot about how bringing adventure and excitement and joy and collaboration and things like that. So, wow, I commend you for what you're doing. So, Tim, back to you. What's a question that you would like to ask?
Well,
I want to dive in about the book soon, but go ahead, Tim.
Yeah, so you've done Deadliest Catch, you've done Survivor. Are there any other shows where we might have seen your work show up?
Yes, I have done movies. I worked on James Bond, The World Is Not Enough.
Oh, wow.
I worked on Armageddon, which is there's a story from Armageddon in the book. And
cool.
So it was kind of cool.
Nice.
I've hanging out with James Bond and with Bruce Willis.
Oh, cool.
Rolling, and it's really interesting to see celebrities when they're not on camera, to just see what they're like, and it's a fun window for me as the helicopter guy to every once in a while to get to be around on the ground with the crew and with the movie stars that we watch on these James Bond movies and stuff.
Yeah, that's incredible.
That is so cool. And I'm going to encourage anyone that's watching this, please share this, because we're going to dive into the conversation about the book that you have and your second book and the documentary series around the book. Is that I'm just fascinated, and even myself, getting to travel and go to events and meet people in their element, and then meet people that are just human, being creative and doing what they love, whether it maybe taking on writing a book or taking on, a career that you enjoy. And I know Tim and I both, we've been experimenting, and Tim and I've never met in person either. We're just friends online that have attended some online events. And we've really embarked on how can we each individually bring creativity to what we do as entrepreneurs. So I'm curious, how did you get to the book writing? How did you talk about that book and the inner city kids and the inspiration? And I'm curious, is it a faith-based? It is.
Yeah, I got a Facebook, the after-school program in the inner city. Said, we want to use your book to in school, and copies of my book, and sent me video book and written questions and everything that these in school were, they knew the details, opinions and questions about the stories that are in Help from Above, and it just shocked me. I just love doing that, and I really think it's a very important part of what I'm doing now is to story the world at large, but especially with kids today, the people who are starting to get out of school and start to think about the world of work and their life and the choices that we make. And I really love that kids can, learn my story, especially the things that I did wrong and the trouble I got into time and again throughout my life and my career. And I love for kids to see those stories and maybe have a chance to think a little bit outside the box when they have choices in their life.
Wow, that is so good.
Nice.
I think that we
Very
all have learned from some of our lessons. So Tim, how does that play around some decisions maybe that you've made as of recent, or even?
Oh yeah, I like the fact that Dave is very adventuresome.
All right.
And go ahead, David.
Yeah, my life, a crazy series of wild situations. Which my second book is about away from bus stop where they were located. That adventure changed my life. It wasn't all fun. A lot of it was bad stuff, but it's just an example where problems, legal business, stop it, just couldn't accept it. And everyone else did. Even the police were not helping. They were hiding the crimes and covering them up. And I just couldn't accept it. And so we're finding the only person to save them and get them out of there and make the kids safe again. And that's a typical choice in my life. I'm very honest about the of things that I do, and this so to show the only one who will ridiculous battle. But some of these stories are worth telling because, like I said, kids today are coming out of school choices too, and I would love for them once in a while to not do the popular, not do what everyone else does. In this case, if it endangers bus stop, I would love for them to put their foot down and say, you can have organized crime and corruption, but not here. Wait for the school bus, and this place needs to be safe.
Wow, I just hear some really cool, like just paying it forward, and really being empowering to the youth. And I was just speaking at an event yesterday, and I heard a woman say that she's frustrated with the quote unquote millennials. You know, she's in corporate America and she's hiring some of these quote unquote typical millennials, and she's frustrated. And I said, well, here's an idea, because I was talking about personalities and empowerment. I said, how can we look for their greatness? How can we look for their uniqueness, and how we might can change, not change, but we might could empower them through maybe some structure, but they might could empower us through some new ideas. And that's kind of what I hear with you. And
Well,
David, I cannot wait to read your book. Yeah, go ahead.
thank you. Well, I tell you, people about the new generation as if there's something different. And I disagree totally. I think that today's generation, kids today, are exactly like my generation. They've just grown up in a different world than I grew up in. And things that are easy for them were impossible for me when I was a kid. But other than that, I think they're exactly like me. It's to hear my story and read about it and maybe think twice if they want to go along with the community, that everyone is, they want to maybe not take the first job opportunity that comes along and maybe work towards something they might have thought was impossible.
Absolutely. And I also think that we can take this approach. I love how you said that. We can take this approach that the world is expanding and changing, and that we can offer them that opportunity to be creative in their career and not get pigeonholed. And I look back at history and think about, when the railroad came through, literally through Texas and all over the world, right? But through Texas and the farmland and the cattle land. And that's what my family dealt with. But look at the expansiveness of it. And then now, you're flying helicopters with camera crews and this adventure side. And I know, Tim, I'm going to pitch it back to you that even in your career and some of the things you've been taking on newly, would you like to share a little bit about that might empower the audience?
Well, I mean, David really embodies the adventure, some soul, and really, not running away from any sort of challenge or obstacle, kind of embracing it and trusting that you're going to come through it on the other side better for having fought through that adversity. And so for myself, my adventure isn't flying around in helicopters, in the Bering Sea. Mine's actually doing what I'm doing right now, is putting myself out there and being part of this platform, and kind of just being who I am and bearing my soul, and doing a lot of the things that I was too afraid to do in what I'm calling my previous life, because it was much different than it is now.
Yeah.
I would never be involved in this. Yeah.
Yeah, and I acknowledge you for that.
Yeah.
As that you did. You said, yes, I'll come on this interview with you today. And we don't know I don't know how to share a screen, but I'm going to try.
Adventure. Right.
Perfect. All right. So as we wrap up the show, I would love to ask David. David, I always ask the guests, what would you like to be acknowledged for? And I would love the opportunity to be able to acknowledge you.
Oh, to acknowledge me for? That's a tough one. I think I think proud of when I look over my life is being a good dad, and I've definitely been through some challenges, and our family life is not it's not with us, so I'm very open and honest about that. But I can tell you this: my son is 9 years old, and I've never missed a day with him in his 9 years. There's nothing more I'd rather do than son. And in fact, I picked him up at school yet. And every time I pick him up, every time I get to him and have him with me overnight, I'm just like a kid at Christmas. I just look forward to it. I just love him. And so I'm very careful to make sure that he and I always have quality time together. And sometimes things don't happen as quickly. Sometimes my books don't get written as fast. Sometimes I don't make as much money. because I'm taking the time to spend with my son. When I'm with him, I focus on him. I'm not doing room, watching a TV, playing a smartphone game, like a lot of kids do. Whatever time we have, we do things together.
Wow, that is so cool. Okay, I'm going to play with this screen a little bit. Well, I don't know how to get it back over to David solo, but David, I want to acknowledge you. I want to acknowledge you for being courageous, and primarily courageous in being a father. That I truly believe, I happen to be a daddy's girl, yet I truly believe fatherhood is one of the best hands down gifts, and you're taking it on fully, in addition to being an empowering person for other youth and other adults and other individuals with your book and with your career and how you've thought of things outside the box. And I just acknowledge you for taking the time out of your schedule to be here with Tim and I and share and be who you are and be open and transparent. I love when men in particular, and women too, but I love when men can really become transparent. It really opens me up as a female, even in the dating world, is looking at men that I enjoy or want to potentially date, that transparency is there, and putting family and priorities first over some of the other things. So David, I acknowledge you for that, and I definitely appreciate you being here. So Tim, is there anything you want to add to that before we close?
No, I just think I can take away that. Oh, that's very cool. That David, you come across to me as a very caring person, and then you're very caring about the work that you do. And I know the work as a father and every other thing that you do in your life is going to bear fruit because of that care. And I appreciate the time of getting to meet you, and I'm excited for looking at your book, reading your book. So thank you.
Oh.
Thank you.
Yay. So David and
only patent.
I'll give it to you offline. I didn't quite hear it, but
the patent attorney.
Yes,
he's going to talk to you offline. You're going to patent some things. I don't know. I think we should create this adventure mastermind that Tim and I've been, tossing around, and definitely that'll be an offline conversation. So David, how can people, go ahead, David. Oh no, I'm like, Tim and I have been talking about it for months. We have these vouchers to this Cancun resort, and I'm like, but I mean, I want it to be mastermind where people want to write a chapter in a book, but I want to go out and do some, like, have a videographer that, like, I'm going to do stuff that scares the holy bejesus out of me. But no, we definitely will. I'm hands down.
Yeah.
Tim's going to be
David knows where to go.
Yes,
he knows totally where the adventures are. So we
may forget Cancun altogether. Who knows? So anyway, so David, how can they reach you, or what would you like to say in closing? And that's how we're going to close out the show.
Oh,
Frozen?
Froze up.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tim, for being here. Thank you, David. My name is Teresa Snyder. I happen to be in Texas today. Tim, I don't know where in the world Waldo Tim is.
Ohio,
but we'll be traveling and taking on some cool stuff in this new year, so you guys stay on the lookout for it. Go buy David's book and write a review. Share this video at least with one friend or in other individual messengers if you think they can find value. And we will see you again next Friday. Tim and I will be co-hosting again next week. So see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.